swing and a miss. Steven Strasburg with 15.
On May 27, 2017, Washington Nationals pitcher Steven Strasburg threw a career-high 15 strikeouts. However, this could have been so much more. Through 6 innings, Strasburg threw 14 strikeouts. That's more than what Kerry Wood, Randy Johnson, and Max Scherzer had in the first 6 innings of their 20 strikeout games. However, the high pitch count is what ended Strasburg's day. Still, in terms of game score, this ranked as Strasburg's 8th best start ever, displaying his immense ability at his peak. Unfortunately, this peak lasted much shorter than anticipated. On June 9, 2022, Strasburg recorded his only start of the season, ending the outing with the 7th worst game score of his career. This was actually his first start back following season-ending surgery in 2021, but after this game, he was sent back to the IL. Since the conclusion of the 2019 postseason, Strasburg has only pitched in 8 games, and his future remains uncertain. He's had a career most players could only dream of having, but the superstar-level hype he once had will forever follow him. So, how did this hype begin? Well, let's head back 13 years before Strasburg's lone 2022 start.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. San Diego State's Steven Strasburg is no ordinary pitcher.
Some longtime scouts are calling Strasburg the best draft prospect they have ever seen.
I hope you're ready to hear this name an awful lot tonight. Steven Strasburg.
With the first selection, the Washington Nationals select Steven Strasburg.
In back-to-back seasons, the Washington Nationals drafted arguably the 2 most hyped-up prospects ever. In 2010, they drafted Bryce Harper, who was dubbed as baseball's LeBron. 1 year prior, Strasburg was drafted as the consensus top prospect. However, the journeys of these 2 players couldn't be more different. Harper left high school early and went to community college to solely focus on baseball. At 17 years old, he was a #1 overall pick, and 2 years later, he won the NL Rookie of the Year. As for Strasburg, he went undrafted following his senior year of high school. Despite some solid stats, he just wasn't a sought-after prospect, particularly due to his size. Yes, he was 6'4", but he was listed at 250 pounds. One particular reason was his California burrito obsession every day after practice. While I understand the cravings for a good California burrito, it wasn't doing Strasburg any favors, especially considering his temperament issues. His high school coach, Scott Hopgood, mentioned how Strasburg took a no-hitter into the 5th inning twice, but after these no-hit bids were broken up, he'd completely lose focus. An American League scout noted a game where multiple scouts saw Strasburg completely lose it on the mound. Ultimately, all 30 teams believed Strasburg wasn't ready for professional baseball. But this was a blessing in disguise. After Strasburg was denied by Stanford and joined hometown San Diego State University, he was told how the baseball world saw him, ultimately fueling him to transform himself. But this transformation was far from a certainty. After only a week in the dorms, he moved back with his family. And then the following week, Strasburg was very close to quitting school altogether. I really think you should quit. This is what SDSU strength coach Dave Oten told Strasburg after the team's first week of conditioning. During preseason, Strasburg couldn't run more than a few sprints before vomiting. Is there something wrong with you? Do you have a medical condition? Strasburg responded, just out of shape. As for in-game situations, pitching coach Rusty Filter often puts Strasburg in tough situations to test him, like intentionally walking someone to load the bases and challenging him to strike out the next couple batters. Ultimately, Strasburg needed to answer one question. How much did he truly want to succeed? Well, not only did he lose 30 pounds in his first semester, he excelled as a closer. However, something unexpected occurred. Between his freshman and sophomore seasons, Strasburg gained 8 miles per hour on his fastball. On some pitches, scouts were seeing as high as 101. Because of this, in his first year as a starter, he dominated opposing hitters, leading to 4 complete games in 13 starts. One of these games was a 23 strikeout complete game shutout, an SDSU and Mountain West Conference record, and a performance Hall of Famer and SDSU coach Tony Gwynn had never seen before. Strasburg was playing so well that big league scouts wanted to see him have a bad game to see how he'd react emotionally. Perhaps they'd find their answer in the 2008 World University Baseball Championship, an under-23 international college baseball tournament. Well, not only did Strasburg win this tournament, he was pitching a month later for Team USA in the Olympics as the team's only college pitcher. In his first game against the Netherlands, he pitched a no-hitter for nearly 7 innings. It was safe to say that Strasburg had all the makings of a future superstar. His 2009 junior season was further evidence of this. Everything from his season stats to touching 103 miles per hour, a number that Nolan Ryan and Randy Johnson couldn't reach. However, it was his final start as an Aztec that solidified Strasburg's hype and legacy.
Strasburg ready to go. The 1-2 pitch slider, strike 3 called, a no-hitter. The man who has rewritten the history books at San Diego State has just topped it off with the greatest history of all.
From nearly quitting college baseball to pitching a 17 strikeout no-hitter, Strasburg ended his college career as arguably the greatest college pitcher ever. Strasburg's college journey was over, but his baseball journey was just getting started. There were rumors floating around that Strasburg's demand was $15 million, surpassing Mark Pryor's $10.5 million deal in 2001. However, there was a wild rumor that agent Scott Boras could demand a $50 million contract over 6 years. Where in the world did this come from? Well, Japan. A couple years earlier, NPB pitcher Daisuke Matsuzaka signed a 6-year, $52 million deal with the Red Sox, and some executives believed Boras saw him as a comparable player to Strasburg. Also, keep in mind that in the 2008 draft, the Nationals weren't able to sign 9th overall pick Aaron Crow, as the parties were around $700,000 apart. This meant all the leverage was in Strasburg's favor, which Boras used until the bitter end. With less than 2 minutes left until the signing deadline, a deal was made. $15.1 million guaranteed over 4 years. Although, with Strasburg's seemingly limitless potential, this was a small investment. Barring injury, this kid should have a long, illustrious career. A quote by Nationals GM Mike Rizzo. While there were rumors that Strasburg could skip the minor leagues altogether, he was sent down to AA after 2010 spring training. It was important for Strasburg to build confidence and endurance, as seen with the cautionary pitch counts. Also, keeping him down for a specific amount of time gives the Nationals another year of control through service time manipulation. Overall, the Nationals were content on playing the waiting game, but eventually, Strasburg forced their hand. It was announced that on June 8, 2010, Stephen Strasburg would make his major league debut. A debut is special. It represents the culmination of years of hard work and determination. In Strasburg's case, his debut represented hope for a franchise that was relocated after a near 4-decade-long stint in Montreal. Everything led to this moment, but the sold-out crowd had no idea what was about to happen.
This crowd is crazy. Swing and a miss. 2-2. Really good stuff. Runner goes again. Another strikeout. Look at Strasburg. That's right down the middle. Part about this kid. This crowd is on its feet.
No balls, 2 strikes. The line, the kick, and the pitch. Swing and a miss. 14 strikeouts. Unbelievable.
Before his debut, Strasburg didn't let the hype get to him, saying he hadn't proven anything yet. Well, he went on to pitch one of the most memorable debuts ever. Before the game, Pirates hitting coach Don Long wanted to make sure his team knew what they were up against. We've got no chance against this guy. He throws 1,000 miles an hour, he's got a spitball, a knuckleball, a 3-seamer. You don't even need to take your bats up there. Just tip your cap. Now, all of this was said in a lighthearted manner to keep the team focused. Manager John Russell had an actual game plan. Wait to see if Strasburg could find the strike zone. Well, 14 strikeouts in 7 innings answered that question. Not only was this the most strikeouts ever thrown by a national, it was the 3rd most ever thrown in a debut. The biggest mistake was a changeup over the plate for a 2-run home run, which gave the Pirates the lead and made Strasburg actually look beatable. However, he didn't allow another base runner. The kid who used to completely lose focus back in high school when he made a mistake was now a certified big leaguer. Pirates bullpen coach Ray Searage talked about Strasburg's incredible ability to deceive batters with his release point, which we now call tunneling. Tunneling is the practice of making different pitch trajectories look virtually identical in order to deceive batters. Take a look at the release points from Pirates starting pitcher Jeff Karstens. A bit inconsistent, right? Now, here's Strasburg. Yeah. In short, this 21-year-old was destined to be a superstar. In his first 4 career outings, he threw at least 8 strikeouts in each start, becoming the first and only rookie since 1901 to accomplish this. Also, Strasburg's name alone was selling tickets. On average, over 10,000 more fans came to Nationals Park on days he started. Also, every single road game had an attendance higher than the opponent's 2010 average. At a time where not as many pitchers were touching 100 miles per hour as they do today, Strasburg was a unicorn. Unfortunately, this unicorn-like ability is what led to the first setback of Strasburg's career.
Back in June 8th, 7 innings. And quickly out to the mound goes Jim Riddleman and the Nationals trainer and Steve McCaddy, and something's not right.
Strasburg had suffered a torn UCL and needed to undergo Tommy John surgery, a procedure with an expected recovery time of 12 to 18 months. For Strasburg, it was a new challenge to overcome in order to become the best. But this was devastating news for a Nationals franchise that took every precaution to ensure this didn't happen. From this day on, Strasburg's career trajectory was forever altered. According to PitchFX, in 2010, Strasburg touched 100 miles per hour in 4 different starts, a number he hasn't thrown since. However, this doesn't mean he hasn't been close. Less than a year after the surgery, he was throwing in the high 90s in minor league rehab starts, which led to his 2011 debut on September 6th. He was on a 60-pitch limit, but he was still able to throw 5 innings, allowing only 2 hits and no runs. In total, he threw 5 starts, with his best coming in his final game against the Marlins. 6 innings, 1 hit allowed, no runs allowed, 10 strikeouts, and only 79 pitches thrown. This 2011 stint couldn't have gone any better, so now it was on to 2012. The first half of 2012 was filled with many achievements: a National League Pitcher of the Month award, an All-Star appearance, and being among the best in many stats. But there was one problem. Strasburg was on a season-long innings limit. The rumored limit was 160 innings, as this was the limit Jordan Zimmerman was on in 2011. So how many innings was Strasburg at? 99. So with the Nationals in the playoff race for the first time in team history, when it came time for September baseball or even October baseball, were the Nationals just going to bench Strasburg? Yes, that's exactly what they did. The Nationals ended the year with a league best 98 wins, but they lost in the NLDS in Game 5 with a 9th inning collapse. Considering how poorly most of the Nationals rotation performed, Strasburg's absence was notable. Still, the team had a very promising future. 19-year-old Bryce Harper won the Rookie of the Year, Gio Gonzalez finished 3rd in Cy Young voting, and these two were among the 5 different Nationals to receive MVP votes. One of only 3 teams in the entire league with this many MVP vote getters. Ahead of the 2013 season, the Nationals were considered World Series favorites. And with no innings limit for Strasburg, his potential could finally be showcased in a full season.
Steven Strasburg, 21-10 career.
This is his 2nd career opening day start. No restrictions, no limits.
After Juan Pierre hit a single to start the game, Strasburg retired the next 19 batters he faced. However, while he continued to dominate over the course of the season, the Nationals spent the majority of the season in 2nd place, ultimately missing the playoffs. While the team fell short of expectations, Strasburg essentially had a repeat of his All-Star 2012 season, except this time he pitched an additional 24 innings. A brief IL stint in early June ruined any chance for 200 innings pitched. pitched. So the next step was to surpass 200 innings and possibly transform from a borderline all-star to a certified ace. Unfortunately, he started 2014 in a rough spot. But there's more behind these numbers. Through his first 6 starts, Strasburg threw over 50 strikeouts. Between 1901 and 2014, this was done on 72 occasions. However, only 4 pitchers did this while possessing an ERA over 4.2, and Strasburg had the lowest FIP out of all of them. FIP, or fielding independent pitching, is similar to ERA, but it focuses solely on the events a pitcher has the most control over: strikeouts, unintentional walks, hit by pitches, and home runs. Notably, while he led the league in Ks per 9, his opponent BABIP was the 2nd highest in the league, which is why he was allowing so many base runners. BABIP measures a player's batting average exclusively on balls hit into the field of play, removing outcomes not affected by the defense like home runs and strikeouts. So the combination of a high opponent BABIP and hard hit percentage meant he was allowing more base hits than usual. However, heading into the All-Star break, these stats decreased significantly. Basically, what happened was Strasburg started to use a slider at the beginning of the season, but the results caused him to stop using it. Still, he ended the regular season on a good note, and the Nationals made the playoffs, which leads us to Game 1 of the NLDS. Strasburg was the Game 1 starter, and he performed well, allowing only 2 runs with 1 earned. However, the rest of the team wasted this performance, ultimately leading to their 2nd NLDS loss in 3 years. Still, Strasburg had his most promising season to date as he finally surpassed 200 innings pitched. However, he wasn't quite in the elite tier of aces with guys like Kershaw, Kluber, or Hernandez. He had plenty of velocity and his changeup was among the league's best, but the opponent average against his fastball reached a career high. His curveball was getting hit more often, and the introduction of his slider caused nothing but problems. So while the pieces were there for Strasburg to turn into an elite ace, he still had some work to do. However, just like 2014, he started 2015 in poor form, except this time he was allowing more hits and throwing fewer strikeouts. Although his month of September was a saving grace. He threw 50 strikeouts in his first 4 starts of the month, becoming just the 13th pitcher since 1901 to throw at least 50 strikeouts in a 4-game span. Strasburg has these streaks and moments where he showcases his world-beating potential, but injuries were holding him back from being a full-time ace. However, 2016 seemed different.
I don't care who you are, this is a tough one to hit. Look at the rotation on that, the release point out front in the late break. Fryer running out of bat, good pitch.
Strike 3, says James Hoy. Cespedes turned around away from the ball.
Strasburg's first half of the 2016 season was historic. He went 12-0 and got this up to 13-0 with his first start of the second half, becoming just the 5th player since the Cy Young Award was created in 1956 to start a season in this fashion. In fact, 3 of these players won the Cy Young Award in their respective seasons, one of whom was teammate Max Scherzer. Also, we can't forget about this: a 7-year, $175 million extension for Strasburg. Sure, he wasn't the league's best pitcher, but signing a frontline starter in their mid-20s on a multi-year extension is a no-brainer. However, in the subsequent 6 starts following his 13th win, Strasburg slumped heavily as his ERA was over 7.6, but his FIP was less than 4. What made this slump so interesting was the 41 strikeouts Strasburg accumulated. Between 1901 and 2016, only 6 pitchers have had a 6 or less game span with at least 40 strikeouts and an ERA over 7.6. 2 of them were 2016 Nationals. So the Nationals defense possibly contributed to this slump, but some news came soon after that was likely part of the explanation. After the final start of this slump, Strasburg was sent to the IL with right elbow soreness. He came back a couple weeks later, but he only lasted 1 more game.
Paul Lessard's still on the mound, and Steven Strasburg's out of this game.
This is not good.
After 42 pitches.
I think he's really worried right now.
Although it could have been worse, he had a strained flexor mass on his throwing elbow, no torn ligaments, and no Tommy John surgery. But he didn't pitch another game in 2016, and the Nationals once again lost in the NLDS despite winning the NL East. Fortunately, Strasburg came back ready to start the 2017 season, although no one could have predicted the type of season he was going to have.
Steven Strasburg with 15. Right center, see you later.
Strasburg's best season to date. He missed about a month of games due to a nerve injury, but he still made his third All-Star game and placed third in Cy Young voting, his highest placement ever. However, despite a first-place finish and great outings from Strasburg in games 1 and 4, the Nationals lost in the divisional round again. But instead of dwelling on that, let's take a step back and look at Strasburg's career so far. Looking at pitchers who threw at least 1,000 innings in their first 8 seasons, Strasburg's Ks per 9 is the 4th best in MLB history, better than guys like Randy Johnson, Clayton Kershaw, and Nolan Ryan. If we look at leaderboards that pertain to the 21st century, it's clear how dominant he's been. Sure, his health was a major issue, but his 2017 season proved that Strasburg is one of the most elite pitchers of the 21st century.
Ground ball right side. Strasburg has done it. Second career complete game, both shutouts.
Unfortunately, 2018 was a tough season. Multiple injuries, regression, and no playoffs? Yeah, not great. The 2019 season was shaping up to be a crucial year, not just for Strasburg because he could opt out of his deal following the season, but the Nationals' core as well. Bryce Harper had already left to join the Phillies, Rendon was a free agent after the season, Scherzer was getting older, and it seemed like time was running out. However, the Nationals signed guys like Patrick Corbin, Anibal Sanchez, Brian Dozier, and Kurt Suzuki for another playoff push. They also had a young star in Juan Soto as a Harper replacement, and top 10 prospect Victor Robles ready to contribute. As a result, the Nationals were division favorites, and one of only 6 teams with at least a 5% chance of winning the World Series. However, less than 2 months into the season, following a 4-game sweep to the Mets, the Nationals' playoff odds tanked. Baseball Reference was the harshest. A 3.4% chance of making the playoffs and less than a 0.1% chance of winning the World Series. On the bright side, Strasburg and Scherzer were arguably the league's 2 best pitchers. In late April, Scherzer became the 35th pitcher in MLB history to reach 2,500 career strikeouts. The following week, Strasburg reached the 1,500 strikeout milestone. He did this in his 213th career game, the second fewest number of games needed to reach 1,500 strikeouts. Also, he only pitched 1,272 and 1/3 innings, the fewest needed to reach this milestone. And as these two were breaking records, the Nationals were back in the wildcard race at the All-Star break. Interestingly, Strasburg struggled in June, but he ended the first half with a 14 strikeout performance, his first since 2017, and funny enough, it wasn't his only 14 strikeout performance of the season.
Got him! And for Strasburg, 14 Ks in 8 2-hit shutout innings.
After giving up 2 hits in the top of the first, Strasburg didn't allow anyone to reach base for 8 straight innings. Not only was this a career-high 16th win, the game score was the second highest of his career. With the Nationals fighting their way into a wildcard spot, Strasburg ended the season with his 7th 10-plus strikeout game of the year. However, Max Scherzer was given the ball to start the wildcard game, where if the Nationals lose, they're out of the playoffs. Well, Scherzer couldn't get the job done, so manager Dave Martinez decided to bring in someone else. Take a guess who it was.
1-2.
Hader the set, the kick, here it comes. Swing and a line drive, base hit right field. Stevenson around third, the ball missed in right field. Rounding third, coming home is Rendon. 3 runs, score on the play. Here's the pitch, swinging a fly ball center field. Robles going back, still back there. He makes the catch. He makes the catch.
And the Washington Nationals are LA bound.
The Nationals did it, but the journey was far from over as they had to face the Dodgers in the NLDS. With the series tied 2-2, the Nationals were so close to finally making an NLCS. With Strasburg starting a crucial Game 5, he had a tall task ahead of him, and the Dodgers came out swinging.
As good as he was location, as you see, just missed it. Trying to go away with that fastball right there, left it down the middle.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a changeup. Steven Strasburg, who had only 4 strikeouts all night, fans 3 in a row to strand Bellinger at second.
This is deep to center field. Bellinger's back. It's a grand slam. Howie Kendrick.
Swinging a fly ball shallow center. Racing on his Taylor. Closing on it. Dives. And he caught it. A diving catch ends the series. And the Nationals, for the first time in their history, will play in the National League Championship Series.
Edmonds strikes out.
Here's the 0-2. Swing and a miss. He got him on a changeup. Steven Strasburg fans a dozen St. Louis Cardinals over 7 innings.
In the air, center field. Robles will squeeze it, and there it is. The Washington Nationals are National League champions!
After an incredible comeback in the NLDS against the Dodgers, the Nationals were able to sweep the Cardinals to clinch their first World Series berth in franchise history. But now, the Nationals had their toughest challenge yet. The Houston Astros. This team wasn't just the best team in the league, they were one of the best teams in modern baseball history. Between 2000 and 2019, the 2019 Astros were the only team to have an ERA plus over 125 and an OPS plus over 115. As for the Nationals, they were an above-average team at best. However, the Astros were coming off a grueling 6-game ALCS. Also, the Nationals had that team of destiny feel to them. They've gotten this far, so why not them?
Dealt with plantar fasciitis early in the year, and here's one into center. Back at the wall, and it is gone. Third youngest player, as you saw, to hit cleanup in a World Series, and he just cleaned up. Wow, that's into right field, a base hit. Score Suzuki, and the Nationals are on top. That's well hit into left field, back and off the wall. 1 run scores. Here comes Rendon. Into left center field. Robles is there, and the Nationals take game 1.
He's been awesome. Hitters only hit 128 off his curveball. You're going to see that the most tonight.
Curveball, strike 3, called. On pitch number 114, Steven Strasburg locks up Tucker, the pinch hitter.
Swing and a slow bouncer. Third base side, Rendon charges in, has it. Off balance throw to Zimmerman in time. And a Game 2 World Series Curly W is in the books.
Juan Soto caught looking at him, called strike 3, and the Astros are into the win column.
The Houston Astros have squared this World Series at 2 games apiece as they take Game 4 in D.C.
And the Houston Astros are 1 win away from their 2nd World Series championship in the last 3 years.
Last 12 starts, including the postseason, 6-1. 2-2. Strasburg, backhand for the out.
And that looks like that might be the end for Strasburg, and I guarantee you his teammates are going to be ecstatic.
That should end it. Cabrera is there, and the Nationals have forced Game 7. And Steven Strasburg, the big night on the mound. Down the right field line into the corner. This ball is gone for a home run. 3-2. Here it is. The Washington Nationals are world champions for the first time in franchise history.
And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books. The Washington Nationals are the world champions.
After a historic run, the 2019 Washington Nationals won their first World Series championship. The World Series MVP was none other than Stephen Strasburg, as the result of 2 wins in the World Series and becoming just the 3rd player ever with 5 wins in a postseason. Between his playoff heroics and his first 30-plus start season since 2014, it was a no-brainer for Strasburg to opt out of his contract, ultimately re-signing on a 7-year deal worth $245 million. The $35 million AAV was the largest ever given to a pitcher at the time. According to Scott Boras, being able to stay with the Nationals for his entire career was very important to Strasburg, and this is why he decided to re-sign. Unfortunately, since then, he has dealt with a multitude of injuries. When he started pitching in the 2020 season, Strasburg said he felt a zap whenever he threw the ball. This was diagnosed as carpal tunnel neuritis, which he underwent surgery for in August 2020. However, Strasburg believes this only delayed addressing the real problem: thoracic outlet syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that's most commonly diagnosed in pitchers with a history of arm injuries and high-effort throwing. This injury involves the compression of blood vessels and nerves that extend from the neck to the shoulder, often resulting in pain and numbness in the shoulder and arm. Strasburg believes he first started experiencing symptoms as far back as 2018, when he was placed on the IL for a month with a nerve problem in his neck. While a Botox treatment helped him pitch a full 2019 season, complications followed soon after, including neck stiffness and shoulder soreness in 2021. Unfortunately, TOS is a tricky thing to diagnose due to its rarity, so it usually isn't the first option to be explored. Dr. Robert Thompson, a vascular surgeon and the director of the Center for TOS at Washington University in St. Louis, says there aren't really any objective tests for the diagnosis. Crucially, Thompson believes the longer a player waits to confront TOS, the tougher recovery becomes because of increased age and mileage on the arm. The TOS surgery required removal of a rib and 2 muscles in Strasburg's neck, which harmed his throwing mechanics and likely played a role in his 2022 injury, a stress reaction in the ribs. He's been limited to only 8 big league starts since 2020, and as of right now, Strasburg himself is unsure whether he'll pitch again. I feel like every time I've had an injury, I felt like I was going to be the best there is coming back. This is the one that's still definitely a big question mark. I realize the clock is ticking. It's been almost 3 years since I've been able to pitch competitively, and it's not like I'm getting younger. At 34 years old, it's possible we've seen the last pitch thrown by Stephen Strasburg. Despite his incredible accomplishments, you may look at his career and think injuries took away a potential Hall of Famer. But you shouldn't look at his career in that way. Consider this. In 2021, when Strasburg was recovering from injury, his dad moved out to Northern Virginia to live near his son. He passed away a few weeks after Strasburg's stress reaction diagnosis in mid-2022. Had he not been injured, he wouldn't have been able to spend that time with his dad as he would have been on the road playing. Then, when Strasburg went out to clear his dad's apartment, he found a bunch of newspapers and magazine articles that detail the entirety of Strasburg's career, from the days at San Diego State to the young big leaguer making headlines. Every player has a story, but not everyone gets to play at the level Strasburg has. Time has gone so fast. A lot of guys that you played with have moved on and they're in the next chapter of their lives. It's crazy to think about how short baseball careers can be. Plenty of players deal with hype, and not everyone makes it. There is no certainty in baseball. Strasburg may not have lived up to the superstar expectations due to factors outside of his control, but his run of dominance lives on. From nearly quitting college baseball to becoming a team icon and World Series MVP, Strasburg's career has been an absolute success. I just hope as time goes on, more people come to this conclusion.